Alright, so I really wanted to do something different with the list this year, and I had my heart set on making a top 10 list where only the absolute best releases would make the cut. I wanted stuff that looked and sounded so good that you couldn't even imagine watching anything but the 4K. So I did more research this year. I spent a lot of time looking at reviews and comments, and I picked up a lot of stuff that was rated really high. And obviously, since this is a small channel and I'm a nobody, you know, I don't get movies sent to me, so I couldn't get everything. But I still got a lot. I mean, I watched a bunch of 4Ks this year, way more than I did reviews on. And unfortunately, as I got deeper and deeper into it, I realized that there just weren't that many great releases out there. And this year I'd pop in a 4K that got a 5 out of 5 on Blu-ray.com, and I'd be like, is this a joke? It was like, what am I really getting here that I couldn't get on a standard Blu-ray? And I'm paying $35 for this? And I am going to be talking about this a lot more in the coming year, but seriously, the bar is being set way too low for these 4K releases. So this time I decided to go with a list that sort of represents where I'm taking this channel into the new year. I'm going to be getting far away from this sort of cult-like mentality where everyone is obsessing over film grain and AI and original audio and all of that, where I'm going to be focusing more on the value of the upgrade. And I know a lot of people won't agree with these picks, and I'm sure I'll get some nasty comments, but I'm going to do it my way. So here we go. So after saying all of that, is there any better way to start this list? I mean, people literally lost their freaking minds over this one. And I think it was fitting that it was this movie because it shows just how obsessive these people have become. I mean, this is not a fan favorite movie at all. People hated this movie. And still the physical media community was outraged. They were so butthurt that this didn't follow their rules over a movie where the only other alternative was basically unwatchable. Worse than a DVD, with a 2.0 soundtrack. I mean, there was literally zero reason to ever buy that Blu-ray unless you had a 3D setup. And this was a massive upgrade over that Blu-ray. But nobody cared. Nobody cared about the HDR, nobody cared about the Atmos soundtrack. All they cared about was that it didn't follow their rules. And you know, I wanted to learn from it. You know, I want to know how they did it. I want to know why they did it. You know, did they just let the AI software run wild, or did they go scene by scene? And we never found out because people were too busy bitching and complaining about it.
The bad news is we got 8 hours and this can blowing down. And the worst news is it's gonna take us 3 weeks to decompress later.
We've all been fully briefed, Mrs. Brigman.
Just don't call me that, okay? I hate that.
All right. Well, what would you like us to call you? Sir?
For so long, the best quality most people ever saw this in was on DVD or the occasional HD stream that would pop up. People were begging for this one for years. And the contrast, especially in Dolby Vision, looks really incredible. It's almost three-dimensional. It's got those really deep black levels and crispy bright highlights. And the AI enhanced detail, if that's what it really is pretty solid, but the close-ups are really lifelike. It's a unique experience and definitely not for purists, but I think it deserves a spot on the list because it's still a massive upgrade over virtually every other alternative, and the Atmos soundtrack upgrade adds even more value.
All right, first assembly's at 15 people. Shag it.
Hey, Vasquez.
Have you ever been mistaken for a man?
No. Have you?
Oh, Vasquez.
And I think the outrage was misplaced on this one. There was so much chatter about the lack of grain and AI enhancement. And if you listen to these idiots, you'd think this was practically unwatchable. And I spent a lot of time going back and forth. And even though the Blu-ray isn't a disaster, it's clearly the inferior product. Overall, the 4K has better contrast, better color, and a better soundtrack than the Blu-ray. and I think it looks better overall than The Abyss.
Play long enough, you never change the stakes, the house takes you. Unless, when that perfect hand comes along, you bet big, and then you take the house.
Been practicing this speech, haven't
A
you?
little bit. Did I rush it? Felt like I rushed it.
No, it's good. I liked it.
I was critical of the trilogy earlier in the year. No Dolby Vision, no Atmos, and I didn't like how they were priced. But after adding more movies as I went through this process, I kept coming back to the first movie, and I thought it looked better than a lot of the stuff I got later in the year. Going back and forth between the 4K and the old Blu-ray, it's a clear upgrade. The dirt and specs have been cleaned up, detailing is a lot better, and some of the close-ups look really amazing. And the contrast is also better, and it's not covered in grain.
Cole! Cole!
Something you're looking for, baby?
Big upgrade in picture quality over the smudgy looking Blu-ray. It's a little heavier on the grain than most of the movies on this list, but it does have a nice look to it. The color grading is also a lot more natural compared to the sepia look that was on the old Blu-ray. And it does take full advantage of 4K resolution to provide maximum detail.
Jake. Somebody who can lead this team on the field. I want the absolute truth here. Are you 100%?
Yeah, would I bullshit you about something like that?
You better. You want to make this team.
This was a great looking upgrade from a pretty bad early Blu-ray release. And whoever worked on this at Paramount did an excellent job with the film grain. It's really subtle and it doesn't cover up details. And the whole movie looks like it's been gone over with a fine-tooth comb. No specks, no dirt, no scratches, nothing. Contrast is perfectly balanced, colors look great. Probably one of the best looking restorations I've seen for Paramount.
Preston Myers, not one step further until you sign my yearbook. I'm gonna be the first Huntington Hill student to get all 522 seniors to sign.
My, how ambitious of you.
Why didn't you get your senior portrait taken?
Specifically to avoid moments like this one, actually.
Thanks, you too. Go Huntington!
And I thought this was a really beautiful upgrade from Sony that not a lot of people talked about. The HD version they used for the Blu-ray was produced a long time ago and looked pretty rough. And it still went out of print twice, so it was great to see this one come back again. And this one has that signature look that I love about most of Sony's 4Ks. The detailing is excellent, there's a very fine, I mean very fine grain texture. Perfect contrast with Dolby Vision, deep black levels and highlights that aren't distractingly bright, and no dirt or specks to be found. And the icing on the cake is the upgrade to Dolby Atmos, which sounds so much better than the prior 5.1 mix.
What'd you dream? I dreamed about a guy in a dirty red and green sweater. Well, what about the fingernails? Actually, they were more like finger knives or something he'd made himself. But they made a horrible sound. Scream.
That's impossible.
And this one really surprised me. I went into it expecting something a little grittier, but man, I couldn't believe how good this looked on 4K. Immaculate detailing almost all the way through, even during the optical shots. No distracting grain, incredible contrast. Even the black levels look great despite not having Dolby Vision. This is the kind of 4K that I look at and then I argue, how can this low-budget 80s horror movie look this good? But when other 4Ks look like crap, you know, with the purists it's always like, that's the way the film stock was, or it looks accurate for the time period. Give me a break. Regardless, this looks incredible. And this is another one that I just kept coming back to. It just looks that good. You know, the overall look to it, the contrast, the clarity, it's just amazing. And like some of the other James Cameron movies on the list, the detail that you get in close-ups is really wild. And this might be the best of the bunch. And the HDR looks great too, with that combination of deep, inky black and crispy highlights. I thought A Nightmare on Elm Street was just a little bit better, but with the Terminator obviously being an action movie, had a more active soundtrack.
One day. I'll give you one day. Whether she flies or not, I'm gone.
And what an amazing release this was. You know, if you could only buy one 4K movie this year, this should be it. Incredible detail level, incredible color, texture, and the Atmos soundtrack is flat out awesome. I mean, if you want something with a lot of surround activity, if you want something that's going to shake the room, if you want total immersion, then this is the soundtrack to listen to this year. Such a great job by the team at Warner Brothers. And in my opinion, this is not just the best upgrade, this is the best 4K release this year, period. And as I said at the beginning of this video, a lot of people are not going to agree with this list, but if you're not satisfied with this new 4K of Twister, I don't know what to tell you. But let me know what you think in the comments.